So if we
Good
can let
morning,
everyone.
then. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't want to say good night, anyway, wherever you are. On behalf of the organizers of the summit, the Town of Collingwood and Urban Economy Forum, let me welcome you all to the second Collingwood Summit, Habitat in Towns. Before we start the proceedings, I would request Keith Hull, the Deputy Mayor for the Town of Collingwood, to make the land acknowledgement. Here you are, Keith.
Thank you. For more than 15,000 years, the First Nations walked upon
Voice.
Sorry, you are on mute, Keith.
My apologies. So thank you again. For more than 15,000 years, the First Nations walked upon and cared for the lands we now call home. Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Ojibwe, and many others who cared for their families and communities the way that we now seek to care for ours. The Town of Collingwood acknowledges the Lake Simcoe-Nottawasaga Treaty of 1818 and respects all of the nation-to-nation agreements that have formed relationships with the original inhabitants of Turtle Island. The reality of our shared history, the current contributions of Indigenous peoples within our community, and seeks to continue empowering expressions of pride amongst all of the diverse stakeholders in this area. We seek to do better, to continue to recognize, learn, and grow in friendship and community, nation to nation.
Thank you, Keith Hull, for the message. Let us all now stand at attention for the Canadian National Anthem in English and in French. Thank you. Now we have a message from the Prime Minister, Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, on the occasion of the Organization of World Urban Forum and the summit. The message will be read by Hilda Cordero, Program Manager, Urban Economy Forum. Hilda, the word is yours.
Thank you, Krishnan. Dear friends, I am pleased to extend my warmest greetings to everyone attending this year's summit at the Urban Economy Forum in collaboration with the Town of Collingwood and UN Habitat. This event brings participants together to discuss and develop urban economic models that are sustainable, inclusionary, and equitable. It continues to be a challenging time for planning and hosting events. That is why I would like to thank the organizers for their hard work in encouraging this year's forum. You can take pride in your commitment to promoting healthy communities in towns and small cities. On behalf of the Government of Canada, I offer my best wishes for a productive conference. The Prime Minister of Canada.
Thank you. You may wish to continue also reading the message from the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, on the occasion of World Habitat Day, which was on the 4th of October, the first Monday of October, which starts the Urban October month. Here you are, Hilda.
Thank you. On this World Habitat Day, cities and towns across the globe are facing and fighting the dual crisis of COVID-19 and climate change. Home to 4.5 billion people today, they are projected to grow by almost 50% by 2050. By mid-century, over 1.6 billion urban residents may have to survive through average summertime highs of 35 degrees Celsius. This year's theme, Accelerating Urban Action for a Carbon-Free World, highlights how cities and towns are at the core of climate action to keep the 1.5 degrees goal within reach. 3/4 of the infrastructure that will exist in 2050 has yet to be built. Economic recovery plans offer a generational opportunity to put climate action, renewable energy, and sustainable development at the heart of cities' strategies and policies. City leadership using green materials and constructing energy efficient, resilient buildings powered by renewable energy is essential to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. The benefits are enormous. Less pollution and climate risk, more jobs, and better health and well-being. As populations grow in emerging economies, demand for transport, which accounts for nearly 20% of global carbon emissions, is multiplying. Cities are working to ensure that this demand is met by zero-emission vehicles and public transit. We need a global moratorium on internal combustion engines by 2040 at the latest to underpin these efforts. On World Habitat Day, let us work together to harness the transformative potential of sustainable urban action for the benefit of our planet and all people.
Thank you. As you all know, United Nations has a specialized agency, as an agency for urbanization, housing, and sustainable development, mainly on SDG 11. The organization UN Habitat owes its origin to Canada in many ways, with its first meeting nearly 4 decades ago held in Vancouver. So the UN Habitat itself has its headquarters in Kenya, one of the only 2 UN agencies based in a developing country, and it is headed by Madam Maimouna Mohammed Sharif, who is the Executive Director of UN Habitat and the Under-Secretary General of the UN. We will have a video message from her in connection with the World Habitat Day.
The climate crisis is widely recognized as the #1 threat facing the world today. And it is our cities and towns which are responsible for much of the climate change, which is resulting in devastating floods, droughts, and violent storms. In fact, cities and towns produce around 70% of the main greenhouse gases. Unless we take urgent action, the greenhouse gases produced by ever-expanding urban centers will continue to push global air temperatures higher. This is why the theme of this year's World Habitat Day on Monday, 4th October is Accelerating Urban Action for a Carbon-Free World. World Habitat Day provides an international opportunity to raise awareness and push for immediate action through events, discussions, and campaigns. And this year, in the run-up to the International Climate Change Summit COP26, we need immediate action in developing and implementing zero carbon plans. The recovery from COVID-19 pandemic is an opportunity for the world's cities to put climate action on top of their agenda. This is a chance to change how we generate our power, construct our buildings, heat, cool, and light up our offices and homes, and travel around from home to work. We need clean, resource-efficient energy to replace fossil fuels. We need energy-efficient infrastructure to encourage walking and cycling. And we need well-planned and well-managed compact cities that allow for non-motorized transport to reduce energy consumption from cooling and heating, so the natural and built environment come together in greater harmony. Cities are the incubators of innovation and new technology. We must harness this strength for better climate change solutions. Climate action will differ from city to city, but we must make sure the green transition benefits everyone, especially the most vulnerable, and create new jobs. The only way forward is for everyone to work together to ensure that our climate goals are met through implementation of the new urban agenda to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals.
Thank you. One of the main architects for the Collingwood Summit, of course, is the city of Collingwood itself, with its illustrious past, as a part of the heritage conservation city in Canada's historic places, as well as you might know the story of the Underground Railroad, which gave passage to a number of people coming from the United States, from slavery. So Collingwood's glorious past also is reflected in its present, in its administration. So I would then now request the Mayor of Collingwood, who is the co-chair of the second Collingwood Summit, to provide his remarks. And Mayor Saunderson has been a lawyer for 22 years. Before he became the mayor of Collingwood from 2018, he was elected deputy mayor in 2014. And he, not only a lawyer and a people's representative, he also is a silver medalist as a member of Canada's rowing team. May I request His Worship, Brian Sanderson, to provide his introductory remarks.
Thank you, Krishnan. And good morning, everyone. On behalf of the town of Collingwood and the residents of Collingwood, it is my great pleasure to welcome our honored guests, speakers, and participants to the second Collingwood World Summit Habitat in Towns. We're meeting again virtually this year due to the pandemic, and I know we all hope that we will be meeting in person very soon. We have a very full and interesting agenda this year, focusing on four main themes that all relate to Sustainable Development Goal number 11, to promote towns that are safe, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. These themes are: number 1, sustainable and affordable housing; 2, urban data, assessment and technology; 3, regional and global connectivity; and 4, public participation and civic engagement. Among the presenters this year, we have municipal leaders and senior administrators with frontline experience, academics and subject matter experts with unique insights, and volunteers and residents to speak of their initiatives, aspirations, and visions for sustainable towns. In the inaugural summit last year, we had over 70 speakers and 300 participants. This year, we have a full roster of engaging speakers and have exceeded 300 participants. I'd like to thank everyone who had a hand in making this event possible, the steering committee members for their vision and advice, the UN Habitat and Urban Economy Forum staff and town staff for their implementation of that advice and getting us all here today. And to our speakers, panelists, and moderators for committing their time and expertise to this event. So thank you to all for your hard work and commitment. The last 18 months of the COVID pandemic has vividly demonstrated that we are a global village and that the health, resilience, and sustainability of our world and of our communities is a global issue. To promote safe, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable towns is not just a local or regional issue, it is an international effort that requires action and collaboration at every order of government, from municipal, regional, provincial, national, to international. Last Thursday, September 30, was an important day in Canada. It was the first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, a day to honor the lost children and survivors of the Indian residential schools, their families, and Indigenous communities. A day for public reflection and commemoration of the tragic and painful history and the ongoing impacts of the residential schools. This day is a vital component of Canada's reconciliation process with the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I raise this for two reasons. First, because I think it is an important step for Canada in becoming a safe and inclusive country, and acknowledging the truth of our history and the mistreatment of the Indigenous peoples who called this land home long before us. Secondly, the First Nation people speak of carrying their communities with them, of bringing their ancestors with them, and of looking 7 generations ahead. They speak of resilience and hope stretching across the generations. And I think this is an important message for all of us as we embark on this 2-day discussion about building towns that are safe, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. It is important that we carry the lessons of the generations that came before us, and that we look through a lens of 7 generations in the future to consider the impacts of our actions today. Before I finish, I'd like to share some perspective for the discussions ahead. The UN defines towns as communities with populations of less than 50,000 and cities as large urban centers with populations above that. According to the UN, large cities occupy 3% of the Earth's land and generate 60 to 80% of global energy consumption and 75% of global greenhouse gas emissions. In Ontario, we know that 75% of our population lives in less than 25% of our cities, meaning that over 25% of our population lives in 75% of our towns. Those towns occupy 75% of the provincial's landmass and are the stewards and gatekeepers of most of the province's natural resources. Given these statistics, I encourage us to think about the critical role that towns are positioned to play in the global effort to promote Sustainable Development Goal 11. Municipal governments are the most immediate level of government. We are the closest to our residents. We operate programs and services that directly impact their daily lives. Water, wastewater, roads, recreation, land use planning, active transportation, and more. While we have limited financial resources, we do have a critical role to play in how our communities grow and evolve. Towns can be the incubators for innovation and transformation. We can advance the sustainable development agenda in our communities faster than any other level of government. And with that in mind, I look forward to the next 2 days of discussion. Thank you, merci, miigwech, and I hope you will all enjoy the conference. I'll pass it back to you, Krishnan.
Krishnan, you are mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor Sanderson. The mayor of Collingwood, Brian Sanders, is also supported by Enable Council, Collingwood Council, which has an affordable housing task force to provide advice to council on take leadership on housing finance issues, as well as remain connected to support an action plan for the council regarding UN Development Goal number 11. So it's an important thing. There's a unified agreement as to how the town of Collingwood go forward in implementing SDG 11. Thank you again, Mayor Brian Sanderson. May I then request Eduardo Lopez Moreno, who is the Director of Knowledge Innovation and UN Habitat. He is also honorary chair of the second Collingwood Summit, Habitat in Towns. Dr. Moreno is an architect from the University of Guadalajara with more than 25 years of academic and professional experience. He's a multilingual professional, and he has been engaged in housing policy, poverty reduction, and governance. I remember what he said last year. He said in the Collingwood Summit, creativity, culture, innovation are at the best of urban sustainability. We'd like to hear from you, Eduardo Moreno.
Thank you very much to Krishna, and good afternoon from Spain to all of you. I'm very honored to be again co-chair of this important meeting in Collingwood for the World Summit, and to tell you that since last year that Krishna quoted me on this, let me tell you that I have been working a lot and reflecting a lot on towns, not only because it is clear that it's unclear how many people live in towns in the world. And it is estimated that something like 40% of people could be living in small towns all over the world. And this is important for three things that I would like to bring to you. The first one, the study that we just concluded, Cities and Pandemic Report, showed that as the pandemic was moving from big cities to secondary towns and to small towns, in many parts of the world, the best responses that we observed were when the local neighborhoods that we call ecological sustainable neighborhoods, that were often at the scale of the towns, were from in a bottom-up approach, where responses were instrumented to other levels of government. And when that happened, not only the geography of decision-making change, but also the role of communities and the understanding of space as an important vector for change at the town level is fundamental. We also understood that we need to place in pandemics like this a territorial response, which according to our analysis is the best response by far. And towns are playing a fundamental role. And Mr. Mayor Brian, I like a lot what you said, because you are right. Towns will be a defining feature in the geography of the world in different forms. Second point is we study and we produce a report, why countries grow and develop. And it was clear to us, and this is very connected to this summit and to the important part of small towns, that the new economic geography and the new governance, and particularly the multi-level governance of development, will require to reconfigure the role that towns can play in this multi-level governance. Because again, in these new maps of development, small towns where an important number of the world population resides need to enjoy the benefits of urbanization, but also need to be part of these benefits of urbanization. So when we think the comparative advantages of regions, when we think the interconnectivity and the role that this geography plays in the possibility of growth and development and shared prosperity, towns are the most important unit from where we can rebuild this fundamental notion of regional territorial development. And last, and also as important as the others, when we talk about global agendas, SDGs, New Urban Agenda, Paris Agreement, Sendai, etc., it's also clear to us that when we talk about localization and the need to put the efforts of these global agendas at the implementation level, towns play a fundamental role on restructuring this localization of global agendas. This is the work that we are doing now in the Secretary General report for the New Urban Agenda to be presented next year up to you. Towns are the unit from the better place and location to structure national response to health pandemics and others. Second, towns are fundamental units to replan the geography of development and economic geography of cities and countries, and towns play a fundamental role. And as I just mentioned, towns are central for the SDGs, for the New Urban Agenda, and for other development agendas in this new, I would say, development of the new normal and our responses to the world that we are facing today. So to conclude, I'm extremely grateful to the Urban Economy Forum for the partnership with UN Habitat. And I'm also very appreciative for the Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation for the support given to us to create the World Urban Pavilion in Toronto, from where we are going to work, and we started already to work in innovation, in creativity, in data assessment, in policy formulation. And for us, the participation of towns is a fundamental defining feature of what is the future of this World Urban Pavilion. So I invite you to learn more about this pavilion, to join the initiative of SDG cities in the pavilion, and to work together on this. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Eduardo. As he rightly mentioned, the World Urban Pavilion is a collaborative project of UN Habitat, Urban Economy Forum, and the Government of Canada. It is expected to be a kind of a clearinghouse of experiences and knowledge, as well as to exchange ideas for action. So as I also mentioned that the ultimate result of SDGs will be achieved or not will be decided to what extent small towns and cities in India are able to achieve them at the earliest. One example is Collingwood. For example, Collingwood's economic base changed from shipbuilding towards the tertiary sector through focus on natural, social, and cultural amenities. So the transitions approach, what was decided by it? It was decided by an approach driven by place-based municipal actions implemented by entrepreneurs and the expansion of the mountain resort in neighboring towns. So then we make the opportunity to watch information or kind of the story of Collingwood, if you want to call it, from 1958 to 2008.
Hello, Krishnan. Perhaps we can go to,
Later. Yeah, thanks again.
yeah,
Thanks.
there
I mean,
seems to be some
yeah.
technical. If we can do Doug Ford's video message.
Yes, yeah. So then, as Ilda says, let us now have the opportunity to hear the message from the Premier of Ontario, who couldn't be addressing us in person. As you know, he was elected as the MPP of Etobicoke North in 2018, and he was also a councillor of the City of Toronto before he joined the national politics. So let us watch his message and be inspired by that.
Ozan, are you able to put the video message from the Honorable Doug Ford?
Hello, yes, I'll play it. One moment, please.
The new Doug Ford.
Second annual. Hi, it's an absolute pleasure to bring greetings to everyone participating in the second annual Collingwood World Summit. The COVID-19 pandemic has been a difficult and unprecedented challenge. While we still have some ways to go, towns and small cities play a big role in making our world better and more sustainable. This summit is a great way to bring mayors and leaders together to network, learn, collaborate, and discuss how to address pressing issues caused by the pandemic and prepare to rebuild and recover. Have a great summit.
Krishnan, you're on mute.
Yes, it's always not a pleasure to talk to oneself at times. And the next would be our message from Honorable MP Terry Dowdall, MP from Simcoe Grey, Ontario, Canada. Honorable Dowdall has represented Simcoe Grey as a member of Parliament since October 2019. He's currently a member of the Standing Committee on National Defence. So let us watch his message, please. He could not be here in person either.
The second Collingwood. Hello and welcome to the second Collingwood World Summit. I'm Terry Dowdall, the member of Canadian Parliament for Simcoe Grey, which encompasses Collingwood and the surrounding area. This is truly one of Canada's most beautiful regions. I wish everyone was here to see it in person. We are a year-round tourism destination thanks to our all-season amenities like Georgian Bay and nearby Blue Mountain Ski Resort. We benefit from a robust agricultural industry. There are so many seasonal residents as well as those who commute to Toronto. We're also home to substantial industry in our region. Honda manufactures its Civic and RAV4 vehicles in Alliston. DCast, a world-respected infrastructure company, makes its products in ESSA. Trebor RX, a new PPE maker, just opened and will be proudly producing its products right here in Collingwood. We also have several craft breweries, distilleries, cider mills, and fantastic dining options that run the gamut from pub fare to fine cuisine. Collingwood is a big part of it all, as the cultural hub of southern Georgian Bay. All this is less than 2 hours from Toronto's International Airport. So I want to extend my personal invitation to everyone to come visit us in person. You'll never regret it. I am pleased to see the 4 themes of this year's event, as well important focus on smaller towns and cities that the Collingwood World Summit brings. The first theme, housing, is vital. Here in our region, housing affordability is a pressing issue. It is almost impossible for young people to afford a new home here. It is also difficult for anyone working in our important service and tourism sectors to afford one as well. And seniors are having difficulty staying in their own home. I look forward to the hearing of any innovative solutions that come from these decisions. Theme 2 is urban assessment. Not stress enough the importance of good data for policy development. In smaller towns and cities especially, where resources are already stretched, any way to make better decisions and to use resources more effectively is critical. Our third theme is regional and global connectivity. This theme really hits home here in our region. I am proud to represent a region filled with smaller towns that each have their own distinct characteristics, but we are impacted by changes in nearby urban environments and by global issues. One example is our high-speed internet, or lack thereof, for many of us. We have seen a steady increase in the amount of people moving to this region in the past few years. Some have decided to make their cottage into their primary residence upon retirement, but many more are just attracted to the relatively more affordable housing prices here rather than the GTA. The new residents bring vitality, they bring families, they bring investments in our region, and they bring a need to improve our services. Internet has always been underwhelming here, but most made do. The population growth has led to some investment, but they were not keeping pace. The pandemic laid bare the need for immediate intervention. Simply put, kids doing school from home and parents working from home led to tremendous problems here. Speeds were too slow to keep up with lectures, video conferences were dropped, and overage charges sometimes ran into thousands of dollars per month for some of the families here. If we are going to truly talk about the importance of smaller communities and the new reality, so to speak, of hybrid work environments, then there needs to be substantial and sustained investment to bring high-speed and affordable internet to rural parts of the world. Otherwise, talk of global connectivity will be nothing more than big cities talking to big cities. Our final theme of the summit is timely, public participation and civic engagement. As many of you are aware, Canada just went through a federal general election, so we certainly saw just how engaged we are. I can assure you that the civic engagement is alive and well here in Simcoe Grey. We saw people making their voices heard. But around here, citizens are active and engaged, not just during campaigns, especially when it comes to the environment. They say, think globally and act locally. And I can say that we, in this region, take that idea very seriously. All throughout this riding, you will find eco-conscious individuals who want to make a difference. And I know this summit will help us move even further. I look forward to the results of the discussion. There are a number of important sessions taking place. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to participate. Hopefully in the future, we can all meet here in person. I want to wish everyone a fantastic summit, and thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a very comprehensive message connecting the local realities also with the summit and its discussion themes. Thank you once again. So we then now have the opportunity to hear from Reza Pourvaziri, who is the chair of Urban Economy Forum and co-chair of the second Collingwood Summit Habitat in Town. As you all know, Mr. Pourvaziri is an architect holding a master's degree in architecture from Iran, as well as an urban researcher working in the field of over 25 years. He was the first ever global advocate of UN Habitat in 2016. And he is the person behind the establishment of Urban Economy Forum. And it would not be an exaggeration to say that he was also the person behind the World Urban Pavilion's establishment. As a visionary, he attempts to bring nature, city, houses, and human beings together in a higher unity. So we would like to hear from you, Reza Pourvaziri.
Thank you so much, Krishnan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third Collingwood World Summit Habitat in Town. Really want to appreciate Mayor Sanderson, Sonia, and Shelby regarding your great support, and appreciate Town of Collingwood for hosting second summit. I want to use the quote from the previous speech, cultural hub, that we try to collaborate together to create global cultural hub. I also need to appreciate our teams to provide this great summit, and I want to appreciate support of Dr. Lopez, Eduardo Lopez, for great leadership and bringing great network, and we hope to collaborate more and more with the globe. I believe one of the main idea behind of the Habitat in Town Collingwood World Summit is creating a network between town leaders and small cities mayors. If you remember, in 2015, leaders of the countries come together and establish sustainable development goals. They approved as a main agenda for United Nations for 15 years. And now 6 years passed. And there is a serious gap between all the agenda and this kind of global meetings, and different scale and different level of the urban management. As I emphasize, one of the main reasons for this gathering is creating a global network to talk about sustainability. What we need which kind of resources we need for creating sustainability in towns and small cities, and what is their role. Always we say they have an important role, but what is those important role? We need to come together and rethink about a new channel for interaction with the government, with the international agency. And second reason behind of the establishment of this global forum summit is advocate decentralization. That's extremely important. We are thinking about inclusion, but we need to know how we are able to realize, and we have a serious problem about migration, about and all the countries based on kind of capitalism strategy lead urbanization to centralization, still lead to centralization. Metropolitans become bigger and bigger, and we have a kind of a problem on shrinking cities and towns. That's against our strategy. We need to advocate decentralization. And the third important aims for us is try to exchange best practices to create local prosperity. How we are able to create local prosperity. There are different projects, and based on my previous experience in best practice and local leadership program of UN Habitat as a partner, and also part of the steering committee of the Dubai Award. There are fantastic projects, small projects in towns and cities. We need to exchange, we need to share those best practices and learn from each other. And that is the third reason for this kind of global gathering. I believe we need to do ourselves. We need to form this global network. We are in the process of creating a global network for town leaders to advocate voice of town leaders in front of central government and United Nations. To talk about the resources, how we can get benefit from the resources, national resources, to improve the quality of life in towns and small cities. That is extremely important. I really appreciate all of you as a speakers, as a participant, to share your valuable experience. But I believe we need to emphasize we are at the beginning of the way. We need to still enrich our network, try to bring more voices to the summit, and we hope to have a kind of combination of in-person and virtual conference for next year. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Reza, for these important remarks. As you mentioned, the decentralization is key for empowering local government and local authorities. You may recall that in 2019, it was again in Canada, UN Habitat had a international conference to discuss decentralization guidelines in Gatineau. It's called Hull in English. And so in a way, there's a continuity in the Canadian discussion also on the whole question of decentralization and localization of the global agenda as